placed on our webpage. So if you miss part of it today or have to leave early, please feel free to go back over to our webpage and you can listen to the parts you missed or the whole thing again. We do these calls monthly, so we encourage you to check our webpage for the scheduled monthly calls, and we try to vary the topic by month, so they're not all the same. We have over 500 participants this afternoon on our call, so we're going to ask a couple of things that you please, we love questions, absolutely encourage them, but we ask you that you please keep them professional and related to this content. If you have very specific questions about your maybe prior job experience or something that's very individual that maybe wouldn't benefit the entire group, we would encourage you to reach out to Johnny or myself individually, and we're happy to help you. But we have a lot of content to cover today, so with that, we will get started. This is our disclaimer. Johnny or I are attorneys. We're not here to give you any kind of tax advice whatsoever. We're going to share with you some tips that we have gained over the years of working in HR. Everyone has an opinion. What we encourage you to do to listen to what we suggest and offer, and take what you like, and what you don't worry about it. Mission of IDOR is to administer Illinois tax laws for our citizens in a fair and consistent manner, and to provide accurate, timely, and reliable funding and information to state and local constituents. We have been around since the 1920s. We were created due to legislation. We are a very stable state agency. We have over 1,300 employees, and we started out administering one tax law, and now we have over 80. So we have grown quite a bit over the years. We have processed more than 17 million paper and electronic returns and 69.6 billion with a B deposits for 2022. So we are a very, very busy state agency. The picture that you see in the background here is our main location. It's in Springfield, Illinois, called the Willard Ice Building. However, we do have multiple locations across the state of Illinois. We have Chicago 555, West Monroe. We have Des Plaines. We have an office in Rockford, Marion, Illinois, and St. Clair, Illinois. IDOR is a professional-minded government entity, and we value our employees and we invest in their success. We both value diversity and culturally and professional employees that we have on board. We'd like to say that we want our employees to reflect the makeup of the citizens in the state of Illinois. So for that reason, we like to hire and retain qualified, professional, diverse candidates. Taxes are hard sometimes for some people. They are for me. I'm not a tax expert. I realize that there are local businesses across the state and taxes is not their expertise. They might own a daycare or a bakery or a car wash, and that's what they know, and we know taxes. So we want our state of Illinois residents to feel confident when they call with questions about their taxes, that they get them answered and in a manner that is professional. So the next few slides we're going to go through rather quickly because I really want to get to the content of today's session. Again, we have 6 different locations across the state. Make sure you check those all out when you are looking for jobs with the Department of Revenue. A little bit about the benefits that we offer at the state of Illinois, and some of these benefits are across every state agency, not just revenue. And again, I'll go through these rather quickly. So we offer a 37.5-hour work week, which is Monday through Friday. We have a very generous paid off policy, 25 days off available the first year. 10 of those are vacation. There's some sick days and some personal days in there. And then every year we get 13 or 14 paid holidays, depending on the year and if it's an election year. We offer vacation and sick time, flexible work schedules, and parental leave of 10 weeks. In addition to those benefits, we also offer health, vision, and dental, and there is no waiting period when you work for the state. So your benefits kick in on day one. And then we have a variety of other benefits, as you can see here. We also offer public service loan forgiveness program. We are a state agency that offers tuition reimbursement. Not everyone not every state agency offers tuition reimbursement. So, and we just increased our amount up to $5,000 a year for our employees. So that's one of the greatest benefits that you have working at IDOR. We also, as a state employee, have retirement and pension, and you can put extra funds into the deferred comp plan. And then we also offer 529 college savings plans. One of the biggest benefits that we offer that many people are not aware of is the career counseling services that the Central Management Services offers. So these CMS programs, the first one is career counseling. If you are interested in working at the state, but you just don't know which jobs that you might be a best fit for, you can reach out to their counselors. You can send them your resume, set up a call with them, have them review your resume and give you feedback. They also, CMS administers the Disabled Worker Training Program and the Illinois Veterans Outreach Program. Now, to find jobs with revenue, this is what our main landing page for our website looks like, and it's tax.illinois.gov. And if you go to the About IDOR section and scroll all the way down to the drop down, you'll see employment opportunities. And it takes you to a page that looks similar to this. We've just tweaked it a little. So actually it's divided up for the most important information is right at the top. The key on this page is the job posting section, because when you click on that job posting, it takes you to a page that looks like this. Now, this particular page was probably from about a year ago, but the point is that every day these jobs that are posted could change. So, and the key in applying for a job with the state of Illinois is that you have to apply for the job when the job is posted. Now, our jobs post for 15 days. So let's say, for example, I go out there and I see this special service education coordinator position open, and I'm interested, and I get in and I read it, and then I get busy and I forget, and a couple days goes by and I go back and I read a little bit more, and then I still haven't applied. I go back in and I try to apply, and the posting has come down, which means it's too late. I'll have to wait until that position posts again. So it's important, if you find something that you're interested in, to make sure you notice the deadline on the job posting. Where do you find that? So every job is going to look pretty similar. So you're going to have the agency, the salary amount, the closing dates, the second item on them. This one was July of 28th of last year. So you would have to have your application submitted by 7/28/2022. Sometimes there may be a time on there at midnight or 5 p.m. So you need to pay attention to that. This particular job at that time was located in Cook County, and it had 2 vacancies. So that's a good thing. Each job posting will have the job responsibilities, the minimum qualifications, and the preferred qualifications, if there are preferreds. So you'll want to pay particular attention to the minimum qualifications, because that tells you absolutely what you have to apply for the job and be considered. If you don't meet those minimum qualifications, then you will not be considered. You just don't go further in the process. Actually get an email. To apply, you're going to set up an account. And here's an example of what that looks like when you start. So you'll see on here, basic information. It's in Illinois. You scroll down to about the middle and you'll see my name, Julie A. Love cover letter, and Julie A. Love resume. So that means I've uploaded something. And this is where you get into kind of the meat and potatoes of our session today, because in order to apply for a position, you'll want to have a resume. Cover letter, I usually encourage people to do it. It's just one more chance to tell about yourself, and then transcripts if the job requires it. We'll do a separate session, either July or August, I believe we're going to do a session on how to create an account, and we go into a lot more detail. For today's session, we just wanted to give you an idea. This is what it will look like. So when it asks you to upload your documents, you would put your resume up here. Now, you wonder, well, I already have a resume. Why do I need to know how to have a resume for the state of Illinois? And it's because the state government public sector resumes are very different than private sector resumes. There is no page limit, and we encourage you by all means to please take advantage of that. So what you want to make sure that you do is write it as if the person that's reading your resume has absolutely no idea. Any of the jobs that you've done, the details on your resume, you have to really break it down and make sure that you don't include any acronyms and that it's very, very detailed. If you have knowledge, experience, but don't disclose it on your resume, that experience will not be added into the application review and grading process. So you really need to make sure that you, in great detail, you'll hear that multiple times today, include everything on your resume. Hold on, I did something and now there we go. So what I've done is kind of created a mock resume to kind of give you an idea of the framework, and it's in chunks so that I could get it all on one screen for everyone. So the first thing we want to talk about is the contact information, and the trend today is to just put your name, your email, and your phone number. You don't need to put your mailing address or state or any other information. On your education, there's two routes. If you have graduated from college and have a degree, you'll want to make sure that you include all of that education background on here. What your degree is, where you graduated from. You may or may not want to put dates on there. It depends on how recently you graduated, so that is something that you decide. If you didn't graduate from college, but you have college, some coursework, make sure you put that on there so that you can show that you did attend college and have some classwork and experience there. Put the number of hours that you obtained if you know, and then put any organization, school awards, if you received any type of honor program, dean's list, anything like that you would want to put in this section. Now, when we get to the professional experience, what we recommend that you always do for every job that you did is list the job title, the organization, the location of the organization, and the dates that you held that position. And the reason is so that you can see there's a clear flow from start to finish of where you've been and possibly different titles. So for example, if I worked for one company for 10 years, I don't want to put just the most recent job I had. I want to list all of those jobs and job titles, showing what I did individually in each of those job titles. The second key point to this is make sure that when you list your job duties, that you don't just use the content from maybe a job description. You want to really extract what you accomplished, what you did in that job. So you want to start with a compelling action verb, something that you did. You want to put the actual job duty and any tangible results, whether it's a number, a value, um, uh, so for example, the first one is this person managed a $1.6 million budget and was under budget for 3 consecutive years. So keep in mind, there are a lot of people applying for jobs these days. And when you can speak to what you individually accomplished, that tells the employer, oh, wow, this person really did a lot in this job. They got a lot done. So wherever you can, try to use numeric data in there. So the second one, generated Excel reports. That tells me what you did, why'd you do it, to conduct trend analysis, and then what was the result. We increased our website traffic by 15%. Third one, collaborated with senior leaders on customer service and increased survey returns by 20%. Next one, answered 15-line phone, directed 300 daily calls with 99% accuracy. So you can kind of get an idea of how you would take what you've done in your job and quantify it. Now, some of you may be familiar with an old tool called the CMS 100. What I would encourage you to do, because there's no page limit on your resume in state government, is if you still have your CMS 100 with all the information from years and years ago, go back and get it and extract that information out, put it in what I call a master Word doc, and then that way when you start applying for jobs, all that information is there. Now you may need to go through and think about jobs from maybe 10 years ago. Maybe they're not set up the same way. So you might have to think a little bit about, well, when I worked at the retail store, how many customers did I greet? How many sales did I have? How much volume and inventory was I responsible for? So start thinking of each of the jobs you've had and show the accomplishments for those jobs. Your resume may be several pages, depending on how long you've worked. It may be simply 2 pages. No matter what, if you have multiple pages, make sure you number them and you put your name on every page. That way, if there's, for whatever reason, it gets printed and lost, if there's a stray page, they can identify who you are. Now, it says don't panic if you don't have professional experience that fits the bill. Focus your resume on relevant and transferable skills along the way. Anything that you've done, a side hustle, mowing grass, babysitting, delivering for Grubhub, any of those side hustles that could map over or transfer over to a job that you're interested in, make sure you put that information, that content in your resume. So these transferable skills are to get you to start thinking about what you may have, what makes you different than another candidate. So if you look at these, think of examples when you use attention to detail. You don't simply want to write attention to detail on your resume. You want to utilize an example of when I did that. So maybe it's taking inventory at a retail store and utilizing my detail. I saved the organization $15,000 in lost product. Um, um, Leadership skills. Maybe you weren't managing a team of 40, but you supervised volunteers in a job that you did. So you will really want to start thinking about what other skills you've done that you could use those transferable skills into the job that you're applying for. You also might have some specific skills. So make sure that if the job is asking for any type of certification or special school or coursework, that you list that on there. Here are just some examples of specific skills that you might need to add to your resume, and make sure if you have them, you put them on there. Remember to keep the format simple and to avoid any kind of design elements. So when you apply for a position, sometimes your resume is going to go through what we call an applicant tracking system. And so basically it is a computerized program that's going to scan your content and see if there's a match between the job that you've applied for in your resume. And in some cases, it may not be, which is why you wouldn't get referred on. If you are applying for jobs both inside the state and outside the state, you need to keep that in mind. So if you have a fancy border or any type of graphic on your resume, it may get kicked out of the system because of that artwork or border. So you want to keep it as neutral, generic as you can, so that that reduces the amount of opportunities for you to get rejected. Again, public service resumes have no page limit. They should be more than 1 or 2 pages. You want to go back and put every single job that you've done, middle school, high school, volunteer work that you've done that would be applicable to a job, any sports or teams that you were part of, that you might have had a leadership role, you were the chairperson of the football team, anything that you think might help you show that you have experience for the job that you're applying for. Put it on there. Now, what you want to leave off is if graduation dates, if it's been a little while. So if you've just recently graduated and you don't have a lot of work experience, then it might be okay that you put your dates on there. But if it's been 25, 30 years since you've been to college and graduated, you may not want to put that on there. Again, that's your preference. Again, you don't have to put your full address. Please don't put your date of birth on there. Please don't put any salary information on there if you're applying for the state. We do not want salary on there at all. And make sure you have a professional email address. You know, it's great if your email is "I love unicorns," but you want to be taken serious for a job in state or out of state. So you want to make sure that you use a resume or an email that's a little more serious. We don't need references available upon request on your resume. We know that, and when we need them, we'll ask for them. So you think about your resume just like in buying a house. It's real estate, location, location, location. With your resume, it's the same thing. You need to put the most vital content on there. And we know you have references. When we need them, we'll ask for them. So save some space on that resume and leave those off. Any kind of buzzword that's something as you're a proactive team player, you're a hard worker, we know you are. We don't need that little list of words on there telling us details about yourself. You want to use that in the content when you design your resume. So again, go speak to the accomplishments that you've had in your job. Objective statements, it's a 50-50. 50% of the people love them and they want to include them on there. So they say it provides direction and tells the person looking at the resume what they're really focused on. And that's great. I don't personally care for them. I think if you're applying for a job, that already tells me you're interested in it. And you could put something else on there that would tell me more about you. But again, that's personal preference. You want to make sure that you use using responsibility-based language instead of achievements. That's kind of backwards. Sorry. Make sure you use achievements. Don't give us the language from your job description because anybody could be doing that. So use those achievements on there to tell us what you did. And make sure, especially in today's world, that you don't over-exaggerate your achievements. It happens. You wouldn't think that people in 2023 would still be doing that, but they do. So make sure that what you put on your resume is correct and accurate, and you can verify that. Now, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the interview. So make sure that you have a good spot where your internet works. And why do you ask that? Because our interviews are always 99.9% of the time virtual, just like we're doing now. They would be on something called WebEx, so you would want to make sure that you download the application and you kind of practice using your camera, which you will need, and your volume. You want to make sure your internet is good, and you also want to make sure that you're not going to be interrupted. You're going to make sure that you don't have to get up and answer the door for the Amazon delivery guy or the grocery guy, because that is a no-no. You want to make sure that your computer has all the updates so that once you start that computer or that interview, that you're ready to go. You want to make sure that you're going to dress like you're meeting in person. So at least from the waist up, you have on something nice and presentable. You want to make sure that you feel comfortable in front of the camera. So if you've not interviewed via virtual before, ask a friend or a family member to kind of talk to you on camera so that you can get used to that process. Please make sure you turn off your cell phone, and you want to make sure that you're confident, that you're interested, and that you come across friendly and like you want the position. Understand that the interviewers do not have access to your resume, or it will not be in front of them while they're asking the questions. So the interview panel, there's usually 3 people on the panel, and at the beginning they'll walk you through the process. Someone will ask questions and post them in the chat box for you, and the other 2 people will not be on camera. They will be kind of behind the scenes, and they'll be taking notes as you answer the questions. All scores are given based on your answer. So there's usually 10 questions, sometimes maybe depending on the position, there may be 1 or 2 more. The interviews are usually always an hour, and all the questions are the same for all the candidates. But they score you individually. So again, make sure you're very detailed when you provide the answers to the interview question. You can ask for a question to be repeated, but you cannot ask them to explain a question. So make sure that you understand the question, and please, please, please make sure that if it is what we call double barrel question, tell me about a time when you had an angry customer and how you dealt with it. A lot of times people just hear the first part of that question, or they only address the answer, and they forget to answer that second part. So it may be 1 question, it may be 2-part, there may be 3 parts. You'll want to make sure that you listen carefully and you cover all 3 parts. Utilize the time that you're given. Don't feel like you have to rush. We understand you're nervous, but this is your time. This is your time to really elaborate on what you've done, what you've accomplished, and why you're the best candidate. for this position. So utilize that time that you have. Make sure that you have time for questions if you have questions about the job, um, and that you get through all of the questions. Um, Sometimes, again, we've covered a few of these. The interview can be situational, and the question can be have multiple parts. So you might get a question like, "Tell me about a time when," and then they'll give you a scenario, and you have to think of an example of when you've handled that type of situation. You want to make sure you include all your soft skills, hard skills, any education that would be applicable. Most importantly here, you cannot utilize any materials when you're interviewing. So they'll tell you that when they start the interview process. And if they feel like you are using materials, you could be disqualified for the position. So make sure you don't do that. Make sure that while you're answering questions, you want to look directly at the camera. Um, I am a person that sometimes when I'm in deep thought or trying to think, I tend to kind of stare off to the side and kind of think to formulate my questions, and that's fine. But you don't want to conduct your entire interview facing over here and not making eye contact with the person. Um, Utilize the chat bot to annotate answering each question if need be, and know that a moment of silence after response is due to a panel having to type up your response. So normally what they'll ask you to do is when you're done answering, let them know that. You might be thinking, going over here thinking, oh, was that everything? And they might think you're done. So it really helps them when you speak slowly, slower than I am, and that you answer the question fully. And then when you're done, you can say, that concludes my answer, or that's all I have for that question. Something to signify that you're done. And make sure you want to test your voice pitch prior to interviewing so that everything comes across clear, loud and clear. Now, the question is, we have great jobs out there for revenue right now, lots of exciting positions. How do you know what's open, and how do you not miss anything? So what we encourage you to do is to go out to our website and sign up for what's called job alerts. We will not send you any tax information. We will simply send you a little reminder that, hey, you asked for information about jobs when they posted, and these jobs posted. So it could be email or text. It's very simple. You provide the information. If you want to stop it, you just simply request to stop, and we will stop it for you. So best way to get in touch with us is to contact us at revs.idorcareers@illinois.gov. That is the email address, and you can send questions to us. You can check out our website at tax.illinois.gov. We do have a lot of information out there about the employment process, jobs that are actively posted, information on state benefits, events that Johnny or I are at, recruiting, job fairs, and career resource fairs. Um, we also have a list of ongoing question and answers. So just like we're doing this call today, and we'll get questions as soon as I wrap up, we keep track of all those questions, and we put those questions and answers on our webpage. So if you have a question that we didn't address today, it might be out there. And if it's not, feel free to send an email to that email address that's up here. And then again, we do this once a month. We put those out on our webpage, so look and see what the next one will be. And we'd love for you to join us back. So with that, I'm going to turn things over. First, I'm going to check in with my partner, Johnny, and ask, did I leave anything off? Anything I forgot that you wanted to add?
No, not at this time.
Okay. I will open it up for questions. Anything that we covered quickly that you want to go back over? Any questions on your end? Um, Johnny's putting some great content in the chat box for you. My computer wants to do an update, so hold on, let me get out of here. And Johnny, I can't see on my end if there's questions in the chat box coming through. If you're taking care of them, that's great. Um, I was going to share one more thing with everyone. I was going to give you an idea of what, and this box is right in the way. So this is what the actual resume, the format or the framework that I had broken down into the presentation today. So this is kind of what it would look like: your contact information, your education. Now, some people will say you put at the top what you have the most of. So if you have the most experience working, you would want to put your professional experience first and your education at the bottom. If you just recently graduated and you don't have as much work experience, you might want to put your education up first and then your work experience last. So again, this just kind of shows you same content that we talked about. It's just the actual 2-page resume in this case, and kind of what that would look like as one document.
So please, anybody, if you guys do have any questions, please utilize the chat box. We'll be able to answer those questions for you today. Currently, I have no questions on the chat box, so I don't know if they don't have any other additional questions at this time.
We'll give it a minute or two. We certainly don't want to keep you on here. I know everyone's busy, so again, we'd encourage you to reach out to Johnny or myself if you have very specific questions. Utilize CMS, that career counseling. They are great over there, a great resource for you. And check out jobs at all the state agencies. So I know a lot of people say to me when I'm visiting them with them about revenue, oh, I don't have any tax experience. And that's okay. Many of our jobs, you do not have to have prior tax experience. And many of our jobs you don't have to interview for, and you simply have to apply. So we do what we call class hires a couple of times a year. We have large classes where we do mass hires of 25, 30, 40, 50 people at a time. And we have those titles revenue tax specialist trainees, revenue auditor trainees, revenue collection officer trainees, and those trainee jobs are entry-level positions that do require a bachelor's degree but no work experience. So when you, as long as you meet the minimum qualifications, you just simply apply and someone will reach out to you. We have other positions, our office assistant, office associate titles that require a high school or equivalent, but and some job experience, but don't require college degrees. And then we also have very high level jobs that do require some tax experience and a college degree. So we have such a wide variety of jobs at Revenue, which is what makes it one of the greatest places to work. We also do a lot of promotion from within. So if you think about it, people start, probably 2/3 of our senior leaders started in the trainee titles and have worked their way up. And as you continue to grow and learn and advance in your career at Revenue, then you are promoted into those higher level positions. So it's a great way, those trainee titles, to get your foot in the door and get some experience and keep growing and learning. So uh, questions on the other side, Johnny?
Not at this time. I was trying to refresh the chat box. Maybe people are having issues. Can you please try to use the chat box once again?
Question from Michelle. Great question. How long is the hiring process? It kind of depends on the position. When we know that we have an actual start date, we usually put that in the job posting. So for example, on our trainee titles, we have an idea of when those classes will start and we'll put them on the job posting. Other positions we don't know. We work hand in hand with Central Management Services on the hiring process. It has probably been reduced, gosh, by months over the last several years, and we are still trying to reduce the amount of time it takes. I will not mislead you. Sometimes it can take 6 months. So once you apply, your application comes in, it's reviewed, If you meet the minimum qualifications, there's a screening process involved. It kind of goes back and forth between us and CMS. So it could take a couple of months. It could take up to 6 months before you hear anything. I encourage people to apply for any and all positions that you meet the minimum qualifications on. And going back to a point earlier, you may think, oh, I don't want to work at a certain agency. They just don't have jobs that I'd be interested in. You never know. So you want to make sure that you look at all the jobs that are open at all of the agencies, because the key is to get your foot in the door, and get that first job that's going to get you on with the state of Illinois. And once you get in and you get experience, um, you are then free to roam about the state and apply for other positions. But getting in on the state is the first challenge. Let's see here. Is remote telecommute opportunities available? Excellent question. Some positions are, not all. So it really depends on the title. The trainee titles that I was talking about are usually always in the office because of the nature of our training. We do both on-the-job training and classroom-based training. So because of that, we do need you in the building for training in the initial stage of training. Now, once you've been through the training process, some jobs it's a year, year and a half. Some jobs it might be 2. It really depends on the position. Can you use the CMS counseling if you are not a current state employee? Absolutely, and would encourage you to do that. How often do you do mass hirings? Thank you, Marcy. It really depends on the position. Usually a couple of times a year for the revenue tax specialist title. Usually at least once. We like to do twice for the revenue auditor, but at least once for the revenue auditor trainee, and at least once, sometimes twice for the revenue collection trainee title. I haven't looked at job postings. Do you typically provide a salary? Yes, salary ranges on all of our job postings. I worked for CCAO for 10 years as a senior research analyst. Should I put that first? I'm not sure what CCAO is, but I would say absolutely. If it speaks to why you would be qualified for the job you're applying for, then absolutely you would want to put that on there. I prefer chronological because it's easier for me to read. I get overwhelmed when it's not easy for me to read the resume to say, what has this person done? So for me, it's where you're at right now and you work your way backwards, but everybody's different. Are you allowed to refer to your resume or cover letter? I think maybe, Dolores, you're asking in the interview process, and I don't believe you are. I don't know that I've ever been asked that question. I know I never have, but I don't know if that's the rule. We'll pause that and we'll circle back around on that. No, there's absolutely no, okay. There should not ever be an age limit to apply for a job with the state of Illinois. Some state agencies might have a requirement. We do not. I'm trying to think if like the nursing position, I don't think so, but no, we do not. And I'm scrolling back through the questions to see if I missed anything. Is it IT positions are with Department of Innovation and Technology. Thank you, Johnny. Samir wrote, they are not mentioned on the website, and I'm not sure what that means. Salaries, or I'm not sure on that, Samir. Cook County Assessor's Office. Thank you, Maria, for clarifying. Yeah, definitely list that. I don't know that I would want to start with that if that's not your most recent job. I think you said it's been a little while, but definitely list that on there. If you have a degree but don't have your transcripts, can you apply and add later? Well, I think there could be 2 responses there. If you haven't graduated yet, but you are graduating soon, So this usually happens in the spring. Let's say, for example, we post positions in March for our revenue tax specialist trainee title, and we're encouraging college grads to apply. If they haven't graduated until May, just indicate that you are going to be graduating, and there is a window of 180 days that it can be within that time frame that you can apply for the position, and we understand that your graduation is forthcoming. As far as it's been 10 years since you've graduated and you just don't have your transcripts, you will want to get a copy from your school if the position requires it. Is there any restrictions that would prevent employment by the state of Illinois? Uh, I am not aware of any. Johnny or Bobby, if you are aware of any, that please feel free to jump in. A question on if your candidate is 45 plus years old, is how far back should I include experience in my resume? I would say at the point in time that you started working. Um, I have included information on my resume, my state of Illinois resume, when I worked in high school, while I worked in college, and that has been a long, long, long time ago. And the reason you want to do that, because there might be job duties you did in those jobs that would apply to the position that you are applying for. So absolutely, that's why I say there's no maximum amount of time or no page limit on the resumes for state of Illinois. So if it speaks to, so for example, if I worked at a fast food restaurant and high school and I supervised staff, but I haven't supervised staff in the last few years that I have been working, I would want to make sure that I put that on my resume and draw attention to that they would see that, yes, I do have supervisory experience. Um, would you be able to email the participants the links that you provided in the chat? Johnny, great question. Thank you for reminding me of that. Johnny will send out an email after the event, if not today, tomorrow, and give you some additional information, contact information, and I believe he can put in there what he put in the chat box. I didn't see what he put, but I'm pretty sure he can. I'm going to circle back around to.
So they said they've applied for the revenue auditor trainee position. That's start date August 1st. When will they be interviewing for that position? They would like to know.
To the best of my knowledge, there are no interviews for the revenue auditor trainee title. That's the last I heard. They were not doing interviews. So you would just be contacted and an offer would be made. And Bobby Tucker, I don't know if you're on here and are listening. The question came through on, are there any restrictions that would prevent employment by the state of Illinois?
No, there would not be, unless there are specific requirements for the position, like a lifting requirement or something like that.
Yeah. Thank you, Bobby. Let's see here. Do we have to apply on USA Jobs? No, you do not. You want to go to either our webpage, tax.illinois.gov, or the main state of Illinois, Illinois Jobs, and you can apply. When you go to that main state page, it has all of the agencies on there. There's a section right up at the top that says more options, and if you click on that, it shows you the individual state agencies, and you can click on there and find us, or you can go directly to our tax.illinois.gov webpage. I sent a resume and a brief. Okay, sounds like someone wants to set up a one-on-one, and that's great. And please understand, Johnny and I cannot accept your resume as an application for the job. So if you hand me a resume and say, I am applying for this office assistant job, here's my resume, we cannot take them. And if you email them to us and say, I'd like to apply and here's my resume, we cannot accept that. So you have to apply for the job either on our webpage or the main state of Illinois webpage. We cannot accept them individually. You have to go through SuccessFactors, create an account, set that account up, create it, answer those questions, and then attach your resume to the in SuccessFactors. The special agent position will require interviews. There is also a background check process involved with that title. So if you did apply or plan on applying, keep in mind that it does take a little while for that process. Yes, Kim, once you receive your score from your application, do you just wait to be contacted for a position? Yes. So keep in mind, sometimes we might have, this kind of goes back to the question earlier on how long does it take? We could have a position out there that we get 10 people apply for. And so that process, pretty quick. We get 10 people, we look to see if they meet the minimum qualifications. If they do, then we would reach out. We have to check to see if anyone has what we call contractual rights, if it is a bargaining unit job, and if somebody internally has rights to that position, they would be contacted first. If there's no one that has contractual rights, or if they waive, then we go to what we call other means, which would be anyone on this call not already working at the state. We would contact all 10 of those individuals and say, hey, come in and talk to us and interview for this job. Or we would contact you and say, we have this opening, there are no interviews, are you interested? Now, keep in mind that changes if there are 150 people that apply. So in that case, we do what we call randomization. So we look and make sure that everybody meets the minimum qualifications, but we'll take the top 10 people. We go through that process with them, same process. And then if all 10 people say, no, I'm not interested in an interview with the Department of Revenue, then we continue to reach out to people for that particular job. So that's where it can take a little while. Bill asked a question. Bill is soon to be bus driver for a school district. Can I get employment during the summer? Thank you, Bill, for being a bus driver. Not at Revenue. Other state agencies might have summer employment. I know I have to stop and think about who does the state fair hiring. They do it in the summer down here in Springfield for state fair, and they do a lot of summer employment. That would be, drawing a blank, not natural resources and not aging, but
It's ag, Julie.
thank you, Department of Agriculture, just went blank. They do hire summer employment, but we do not. Do we have a date for the next workshop? Thank you, Don. We don't yet. It will be in July, probably about a month from right now, depending on schedules. So I'm going to guess it would be the week of the 17th through the 21st. But as soon as we have a date for that, we will put that up on our website, and also on our socials. So make sure if you don't, that you follow us. And feel free, Johnny, to jump in here with these. I'm trying to go through them to make sure we get everyone's answers to their questions. So if you want to jump in and I've missed anything, please feel free to throw it in there again.
Yeah, they're asking, are interview questions normally provided in advance? If not, is it possible to request them as part of the ADA accommodation?
Normally, no, interview questions are not provided in advance. And again, I'm going to lean on Bobby Tucker here to say if it is part of an accommodation, if they would provide the interview questions prior to, and I'm not sure.
I've not heard of that being an accommodation. There are a number of other accommodations that can be made that might help with whatever the situation is, but I've not heard of that one being kind of approved.
Couple of questions. You're welcome, Dawn. And I think it's Chorito, maybe. I hope I pronounced that correct. I uploaded a resume, and is it too late to update it? It depends on the job posting close date. So if the posting has already closed, then yes, it would, I'm sorry, be too late. If the posting is still active, then you can go back and update your resume and resubmit it and reapply. Question on if you have applied for a position and you're not selected, would you receive notification? And yes, we do send out an email to let you know that another candidate was selected. Question on age limit. No, there is no age limit to applying for state of Illinois. We welcome everyone. Keywords, do we need to search for remote? I would read the job posting. So if it is a remote position, 99% of the time, it will say that in the position. If it doesn't say it, that doesn't mean it's not remote. It just means that it could be hybrid, or nobody else has asked for it to be remote. So it could be open for discussion. It'd be worthy of a question. Again, some of our positions at Revenue can be remote, but there are many that cannot be. So it just depends on the position. So we are almost at the top of the hour. If you do have other questions, I would encourage you to put those in the chat box, and we'll continue to scroll through those. Again, thank you for your time this afternoon. We greatly appreciate it. If you have questions, follow up at our Rev IDOR careers webpage or email address, and Johnny and I can help you with those. And look for our upcoming sessions for the summer. We'll change the topic, and we also try to change the date and the time so that we can get a wide variety of people that would be able to attend. So it might not be a Thursday at 2 o'clock. It might be a Tuesday at 9 o'clock, but look for those. Remember, they're recorded, so if you do miss it, you can go back to the webpage and listen to those. Are the pay rates provided and the bi-monthly pay rate? They are the monthly salaries that are listed on the job postings. And it looks like Johnny done a great job. Thank you so much, Johnny, for helping with the questions in the chat box, and for Bobby Tucker for being on the call with us this afternoon. And we don't want to keep you. If you have any other last minute questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. Otherwise, I would say thank you for your time this afternoon. We hope you enjoyed the session, and have a great day. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.